Alright everybody, welcome. What I have here is an Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 arcade PCB, and I was contacted by a YouTube subscriber who wanted me to convert his board from UMK3 back to regular original MK3. I said, well, I can just burn you the ROMs and hook you up. So he didn't have to send this board to me or anything. This is actually one of my boards, but it actually has UMK3 installed in it right now, and I'm getting ready to convert it over to regular or original MK3 with the ROMs that I have burned for him. There are a total of 11 ROMs that you have to burn to convert the game from Ultimate back to regular. And it's the bottom two rows here. UMK3 uses U110 through U113, and it skips the fifth row. It uses the top four, it skips the fifth and goes to the sixth. Well, when you convert this board back to regular MK3, you use the top five and don't use the sixth. You'll see when I get the ROMs installed. But I actually have all of the ROMs sitting right there. So I'm going to remove the bottom two rows here. I need to, those are 8 of the 11 ROMs to change out, the bottom two rows. The two revision ROMs, U54 and U63, and U2, the top sound ROM. Those are the 11 ROMs that get changed out. But also, I do want to mention, if I can get this, there we go. You got to ignore all the other stuff in the background there. It's a bunch of other projects going on all here at the same time. What I said, I did want to mention that you don't actually have to change out the U2 sound ROM. The UMK3 U2 sound ROM will have all the information you need to play regular MK3, except the attract mode sound. If you want to have the attract mode sound, I would recommend changing out the U2 from the Ultimate one back to the regular, but it's not necessary to play the game for all of its functionality. It's just so you can have the attract mode sound if you want the attract mode sound. But I'm going to go ahead and change it out anyway, because technically it's part of the entire package to change the game from Ultimate back to regular. So the first thing I'm going to do here is boot this up so you can see the board's working and that Ultimate MK3 is installed and works just fine. So the first step here is I'll turn the test rig on, and you'll hear the board come on. There it is. And we'll go ahead and let this go through its cycle here. The two revision ROMs here you can see are red is because this is the tournament edition of UMK3, and the information on these ROMs are different from what the board's looking for. That's why they come up red. But I just want to show that the board's functioning and that all the ROMs check good as far as the game ROMs and whatnot. So we'll let this go through its cycle here. Alright, we'll acknowledge this. And you'll hear the attract mode sound. Okay, all this information for the attract mode sound is stored in this U2 sound ROM. Alright, so I mentioned that because when you change over to regular MK3, because the attract mode sound is programmed differently for Ultimate than regular, that's why you don't have any attract mode sound in regular. So that's why you got to change it back over to the correct U2 sound ROM with the regular correct information for MK3. So the first step here is to go ahead and start swapping these ROMs out. Okay, so I've got my screwdriver here. I just use a regular flathead screwdriver, and it's important when you do this is to not pry. Don't jab underneath the ROM and pry up. You want to slide this underneath the ROM, in between the socket and the ROM, and twist it. When you twist it, it'll pry it up, and then you can do the same on the other side, and it'll avoid you going down there and damaging pathways and traces and things like that underneath the ROM. So the first step would be U63, U54, U2, let's see if I can, there we go. Alright, then we have U121, U120, U119, U118, and like I mentioned, this bottom row is U110 through U113. Well, we're not going to be using those for regular. We're going to be using the U114 through U117 that wasn't used for Ultimate. I don't know why they jumped down one row of ROMs, but they did. Maybe it has to do with the way the board's programmed, I'm not sure, but it's not a big deal. Alright, so all the UMK3 information is removed, and now it's time to put the regular MK3 on. We'll start with the regular MK3 U2. And the 2 revision ROMs. U118. U114. U115. U119. U116. U120. U117 and U121. And there you have it. I went ahead and printed up my aftermarket labels, or aftermarket because I made them, but they're actually reproduction labels. So these bottom 2 rows, it gives it a nice professional factory look to it. And then of course the same with the revision ROMs and the U2 sound ROMs. So all these ROMs I erased and burned with MK3. I made these original factory looking labels to put on there, so it gives it a nice factory fresh look to it. So, and there is one more thing I want to mention before I turn this on. Normally you would have to change out the security chip as well. The security chip is what tells the board which game is installed, and fortunately for me, I have the correct ROMs that include the cracked version or cracked information from the security chip. So basically, as long as you have any security chip installed, it doesn't matter for what game. It could be Rampage World Tour or WWF WrestleMania or let's see what else is on there. There's a number of other ones, but as long as there is a functional security chip from any of the 7 games this board can support, you can actually run MK3 on here. So basically these 2 ROMs contain cracked information or hacked information, and the security chip functionality has been incorporated into these ROMs. So as long as there is a security chip installed, it doesn't matter for what game, you can still convert the board back to regular MK3 because these contain the functionality and information from the security chip. So you no longer have to worry about acquiring the correct original chip for whatever game you want to convert your board to. So that's a big plus. So anyway, now that I've mentioned that, I have all the ROMs changed out and everything's good to go. So hopefully when I boot this up here, it should work just fine. Let's find out. Alright, there's a good sign. And you can see up here it says any U64. Maybe you can't. There it says any U64. So basically what that means is that that's what it's telling me, that these ROMs here are capable of working with any U64 security chip. So the important part here is to watch the bottom 2 rows of ROMs and to make sure they all come up green. U121 through U114 should all come up green. And the two revision ROMs are also green, as you can see as well. Now for U2 to show up green, and we're all good. So there you go. Do this here. Now I should have correct MK3 sound here, the track mode sound. There you have it. You would not be hearing anything right now if you did not change out the U2 sound ROM. So let's start a game here. There you go.
Round 1, fight!
So a successful conversion. Normally this would not be possible if I did not have the any U64 revision ROM information. So otherwise everything worked out great. So I'm going to actually take these 8 ROMs back off of here, the sound ROM and the 2 revision ROMs, for a total of 11. and I'm going to actually send those off to the person who I did this for, and I'll convert this board back to UMK3 and put it back in my collection. So I just wanted to show how this works and what's all entailed with it, and the fact that you can now convert, well, basically there are hacked revision ROMs for all the 7 different Midway Wolf games. There's, let's see, the MK3, UMK3, WWF WrestleMania, Rampage World Tour, 2-on-2 Open Ice, and what are the other 2? NBA Maximum Hang Time and NBA Hang Time. So there's 7 different games you can play on this one piece of hardware with just a simple ROM swap. But before, if you wanted to change your board to one of those other 7 games, you had to have that other game's security chip, but now you don't. So I actually have all 7 different games, different revision ROMs that contain the hacked info for the security chip. So using this one board with the one UMK3 security chip, I can actually convert this to any of the other 7 different games, and all 7 games would still be able to function using the UMK3 security chip. So anyway, I wanted to mention that. Sorry this is long-winded, but let me know what you think, and I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.